The other thing that's interesting to note on this unit, let's see if we can take a look at that here. For the first time on any Honda unit that I've dealt with, the sleeve for the main shaft, it actually is not a part of the valve body anymore. Forever and ever, this sleeve was cast into the valve body housing. Not so much anymore on this particular unit. It comes off and is serviceable without having to replace the whole valve body. And a stator tube and arm is about the same as we've seen before. Remember, on Hondas, the solenoids that we looked at earlier have absolutely nothing to do with line pressure. This is what raises and lowers line pressure. Hondas are like 604s that they work on a constant 125, 135 psi. When we get into the gas and it torques up, this moves to the right, moves down in a clockwise position, pushes on our pressure regulator valve. Lo and behold, we have line pressure rise only during acceleration. Only during acceleration. I have always get that call on the tech line, so I have to change the solenoids because the line pressure is not working correctly. Well, that's not how Hondas work, and that's how they haven't worked that way in a long time. The other thing we want to take a look at, since we have plenty of time, is the part setup. See if I can get this to come out of here without causing too much damage. There's a guide stud that holds this in. Now that's a pretty stout piece of material right there. The pin holds it, aligns it into the case. It's got a steel sleeve down into the case that keeps it centered. Don't have to take it apart unless the spring's broken. If the spring's broken, then we have to worry about it. We're tearing down the unit. This whole linkage setup can just be simply set aside to be dealt with, just cleaned up. So we're going to take the linkage apart now. So get a look at that. Pull the spring out. You get in there and see that, Sean? This is much like the earlier Hondas. It has the two-piece linkage. Take the spring off, pull the pin out. Now the linkage just breaks free and out it comes. This as well does not need to be taken apart. The spring comes off of the shaft to be set aside so we don't lose it. Not that we lose parts, but you know. As of right now, I only know of one manual valve. We've seen differences in Acura and Honda manual valves. Maybe Sean has more of that, but right now I haven't seen any differences in the manual valves. Stator tube comes out. Heck, we might as well keep going with this thing. Great. Now I got stuff spread apart. I can't find my name. 10mm socket. There we go. And here's the thing, when you've got all these different size bolts, as Hondas are very, very common to have every manner of short, long, or otherwise, the great rule of thumb is, and this is a good close-up right here, is you see how the head of the bolt fits right in there? That's when you have the right length bolt in the right spot. That's about 10, it sticks up about 10 millimeters. And now we know that that bolt is in the correct spot. This unit will be out by, this is an accumulator body with its own plate. Okay, let's see if we can get after that here, because we've got right in here, got a couple of check balls. Set those off or I'll lose them. And then the pressure regulator body with the selector shaft. Oh, I was saying that we'll have, that might be as far as we go today. I didn't bring a thin wall socket.
Push hard.
Use your hammer.
I like the call. Right? We don't need no stinking thin wall socket. There we go. Well, I didn't want to seem like, you know, a hacker, you know. So I'm pretty sure that given the length of time we have, and judging by the oil and the way the valve bodies are looking, this is uncharted territory.
We struck oil, didn't we?
In other words, I haven't had this part of this trans apart. Been focusing mainly on getting the gear train apart. You can see by the oil here. I'm not going to ruin the carpet. The accumulator body, or the pressure regulator body. This is pretty standard Honda type stuff. I have to tell you, this is cool. I shouldn't be enjoying myself as much as I am right now. This is just had it. It's here somewhere. So we've only encountered two check valves before in the main valve body. Down to our main body here. This is more of a bearing retainer channel body right here. The same Honda pump gears that we've come to know and love, the same pump pocket that takes so much critical inspection, because this is a big transmission and these are just little winky gears, right? So if there's any kind of wear in this pump pocket, what's going to happen? Anybody? P0740 sound familiar? Low cooler flow, burned up converters. That's the sort of thing that we're talking about when we're inspecting this pump pocket. If there is any visible wear in this pump pocket, it might be a good idea to take the time to get rid of it. The other thing about Hondas that I say, besides inspecting the end plugs, this has always been a weak point in these units, is to pull every valve out of every Honda every time. The life you save may be your own. Because so many times when I get calls from the guys that have put their Hondas together and they have a P0740 and I says, well, did you go through the valve body? Oh yeah, I went through the valve body and I used my, get a close-up of this one, Sean, sure, my valve body rebuilding tool. This is my valve body rebuilding tool right here. Because I went like this, yeah, you know, I went like this, and I went like this. Oh, listen to that. This valve body must be in great shape. So now I do a dip and blow. Then I rebuilt the valve body. And he wonders why he has a P0740. So when you call me about something like that, that's the first thing I'm going to talk to you about. Whether it's this valve body or the pressure regulator valve body, I believe that it starts with a bare piece of aluminum and all the valves laid out on the tabletop and cleaned up. Obviously, if they're Teflon valves, which Honda is not really famous for, but let's take a look here. Where's my valve body rebuilding tool here? There we go. Yeah, most of these are all, let's see if we can get this one out. So, as you can tell, I haven't even tried this, and that's why I wanted to keep it real. I should be showing that this way. Just pull the clip out. Can you get that, Sean? The unplug. Now I think, now comes the spring that, and I did not honestly take the time to break this down. Like I said, I wanted to focus on the gear train, but since we have plenty of time here today, why not go through the valve body as well? And I did not take the time to do a valve body layout, but I'm thinking that Sean has that in his section. Oh no, wouldn't you know it? There is I says Honda doesn't use Teflon valves, and lo and behold, look what I have. There's a Teflon valve. No abrasives. If this thing is worn on any of these lands in any way, shape, or form, time to go to the parts store. It should drop just like that on its own weight. This has still got the oil on it. Notice I just pushed that right down on there. If this is a dry casting with a dry valve, even though it's Teflon, it should just drop right down into that bore. I know I'm doing this away from the camera, but I don't want this thing to go launching all over everywhere. There we go. And you do that with every valve in here. There's a couple of valves in here as well. You want to make sure that those come out. The accumulator comes out. Everything down to a bare piece of aluminum. So that we clean this thing up and it looks brand new. Make sure the plate is not worn. Where the pump gears ride, this one right in here, this one looks like it's in pretty good shape. Make sure none of the bearings move about in the case. Like I said, I went over this one. Make sure this one's not worn or worn inside the case. We've got a couple of solenoids on the outside we want to take off. I'm not going to go there right now. And put this thing in the machine and clean it all up and get it ready to be put back together again. Heck, we have enough time. Let's just go ahead and put it all back together.
I'm glad to see your hands dirty.
I know, right?
Yes.
Because, yeah, like I said, this is farther than I have actually taken this piece of, this transmission apart. That's why it's all still oily, and then quite frankly, it's cool.
Any no problems on this unit, Bill?
Not yet, because it's so new. We haven't seen too many of these rolling through. Rory, anything you could add to that? Have you seen these come through your shop just yet?
No, we haven't seen that, so. What about Honda on their factory warranty? Have they had any problems or any updates that anyone knows of?
Not as of right now. That will be coming forthwith. You know, we had the tech department had a conversation about that very thing yesterday. You know, we like to put this out for you guys so that when the unit does come out, you're ready to tear it apart. And when that information comes to us, you guys will be the first to know. Did I get them all there? No, there we go. See, I just threw all these bolts in the basket there. There we go. Don't forget your check valves. So anyways, I'm not going to hassle throwing this thing back together in front of you guys and searching for all the bolts, so putting it back together. Everything else with this unit is just like the Hondas that you've come to know and love. Like I said, the most important is to get this bearing out and change the sleeve, change the O-rings in the sleeve. And by golly, I'm way ahead of schedule. Any questions? Besides like the gray one that Pete had.
The feed pipe is all the same.
Say again?
The feed pipe is all the same.
Feed pipes?
Feed pipes.
You mean on the solenoid?
Yes. The feed pipes right here, that's the cool part about it as well. They're all the same size. Now, as I said, the filter, that's a good question. The filter goes down into it. Now, what's going to happen if we put it backwards? I don't know. Try it. Install it and give me a call. And there was only one feed pipe in the whole unit, so that's not going to be much of an issue as well. The cases, I'm sure, are going to wear like the rest of them. In here and in here. Always keep a sharp eye out for that. The other thing was, when you pull the bearings off the shafts, use the correct puller setup, don't break the gears. This is one thing I wanted to show you guys. Right here, Sean. This is the trans temp sensor, or what's left of the trans temp sensor. If this thing, when your builder's working this thing, if there's any resistance to this thing coming out of the case, leave it alone. Just let it stay with the case, or else it's going to end up looking like this one. All right, and it's much easier to come in from this side, right here. Can you get that okay? Mm-hmm. And tap it out from this side. Once the case is off of the main case, off of the bell housing that is, once the main case is off the bell housing, now we can go in here and tap this sucker out. That's going to save the boss from buying another trans temp sensor. That is, I didn't break this particular one. This is the way this one came from the core place. But as you can see, if you get Gorilla on the thing, they stick pretty easily. There's a hold down bolt in there, and if you try to get under where that hold down bolt was, as you can see with this one, it snapped clean off.
Did you get that from Jerry in Portland?
Jerry in Portland, no. I believe this was an LKQ unit. Let's see.
Bill,
Yes, sir.
on the case there must be a snap ring you need to open when the bearings are still in there.
Yeah, I kind of went over that really quickly. The snap ring. Let's see if we can get in there. Can you get in there?
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah.
The snap ring is right in here. I'm going to turn the case around so that when you go through the right in here, that's where that snap ring lives. So that when we do the tap-tap to separate the case halves, maybe get a little wedge in between the two, that's when you're going to spread the snap ring out here and it will let the shaft drop down. Oh, that's a good point too. Because of the way the main shaft sits in the trans, let me just put this back together here to demonstrate how this works. The way it sits, that's hitting the bench. Let's see, hold on. There. This thing is now riding on the bench. So, what you're going to need for that is special tool number 2x4. That's going to rest up underneath the case so that when we go to put this thing together, now it sits in there just fine and the whole case is pretty steady. Special number 2x4.
When you use that puller to pull that bearing from the case, how thin is that case on the other side that you don't break the case? You know, when you're pulling that bearing with the 3 rings on it, and you're basically, your puller's pushing on the case, is it thin there?
Oh, right. And what you do, just like is in the, you can see in the book, the 10mm socket fits right over that.
Okay.
So, because, to see if you can see down in there, the feed pipe, can you get down in there, Sean?
Yes.
The feed pipe, so the 10mm socket is going to go over the feed pipe and rest right down into the case. So,
And the case is thick enough?
I'm going to show you that right now. Because we were worried, we had that same question on the earlier units. Let's get this out, these flying parts, so the parts don't go flying around. Yeah, see? Go figure, right? It just fell, the check ball just fell off into oblivion. So right here, right in this area, this round area right here is right up against the edge of the bell housing. This is the area of the case where that pressure, all the pressure is going on. So you can see that it's built up quite nicely right there. We were concerned about that as well. And we've even gone to the lengths of taking the puller, installing the puller on the bare case, putting some pressure on it, and throwing it in the machine. And then as it comes out of the cleaning machine all nice and hot, then we go and we hit it with the wrench and out the bearing comes because it's all nice and expanded. So yeah, yes, there is quite a bit of meat in that case to handle that. All right, now we get to go on Easter egg hunt. No sprags. Excuse me. No sprags.
It's right in front of your left shoe, by the way.
I'm sorry?
It was right in front of your left shoe. Check ball.
Oh, yeah, one of them. You don't put that check ball in there, give me a call, let me know what happens. All right, well, are there any other questions? I'm about 15, 20 minutes early. I was working on, other than breaking down the drums right now. But unfortunately, I only bought this tiny little bench, so I merely wanted to show you how to remove the gear train from this unit, one step at a time, and I've outlined that in the paperwork that I've sent that's in the handout with some instructions there, because I think that's the funnest part about our jobs is figuring out better and smarter ways to do it. You know, forget what the manual says, because we've been doing this long enough that those guys that wrote the manual sit in a squeaky clean office back somewhere in Japan, and we know better of it. So this unit will be out by the bookstore. I'll have it back together again by the time you all come out there during the breaks throughout the day, throughout the weekend, so that those of you who want to can tear their gear train apart with some hands-on type of stuff. And if there's no further questions,